All right. Welcome to Marlins After Dark, back after a long hiatus, formerly known as Marlins After Midnight, but that's a little late to get guests. So, Marlins After Dark, still the team that keeps you up at night, still the team that no team can make you mad at times, like the Florida Marlins, Miami Marlins. So, we'll dive into it today. I'm your host, Sean Millerick. On tonight, Kevin Barral, John Rodriguez, and Danny Rodriguez. To And our main thing we want to do today is, in the spirit of Halloween, holiday before it gets too far in our rearview mirror, we're going to be having some fun doing the Marlins Horror Draft, which we're going to talk about shortly. But in a bit of an awkward segue from it, we got to start out being optimistic, because today was a positive day for the franchise. Big news: our new manager, Skip Schumacher, was introduced. So, Kevin, may I start with you? Thoughts on the presser from our new fearless leader?
I love it. I loved everything about it. I mean, the guy, it was just great. I mean, just him talking about the culture and how he wants to change it up. Just the way he spoke was completely different from, I mean, at least my experiences with Donnie. And maybe Daniel could attest to the same, as, he's been there at least, he's there two times a week covering when seasons in sync. And yeah, just talking about winning the way he did, wanting to be consistent. He spoke about the culture, which is definitely something I like. He also spoke about what he's looking in for the new coaches that he's going to bring in. Now he's keeping Mel and Wellington Cepeda, so he's going to keep that whole pitching staff intact. Those guys aren't going anywhere. So I love it. I love that. I love everything he said. I really didn't watch too much about Bruce and Kim. Maybe Daniel did. I'm not sure. And there he is, Skip Schumacher, as John is showing us. But you love to see it. It was a great presser. I will say that. And then yeah, nothing much more to say. It was a good presser. He said what he had to say, and he definitely left me a little bit impressed, and definitely excited to meet him at spring training.
Danny, you fired up? You excited for the next season?
I'm
New
ready
chapter?
for Skip to skip the Marlins and Skip, and I'm ready for all the Skip jokes. Seems like a great person, answered questions eloquently. He answered them well, even the harder questions, which might get in the beginning of his tenure here. Bruce and Kim were good. Bruce really talked about, I believe, the payroll, and I believe Craig Mish asked him about $150 million, something around there. But it's still early, just a press conference. I can't wait for, like Kevin said, meeting him in spring training, opening day. See what happens first in the offseason, see how he goes around that, him with Kim and Bruce. And I'm ready for this new era, as John has it right behind him.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add is, I don't know, but I feel like players are gonna want to play for this guy. He feels like that type of person. He's young. He was in the Statcast era. We have to keep that in mind. He played during that time, so he does have that, I guess, different view than how many managers have in the league, which is definitely a plus. So he could relate to a lot of these players. And he did mention he does not speak Spanish, but the coaches he's looking for, he would like them to be bilingual, and he wants them to be high character guys that know about the game, and what a manager usually looks in a coach. But I like that he mentioned the bilingual portion, because so he can maybe find he could relate to these guys as well, or at least have some type of relationship with someone, like maybe for example, Jesus Sanchez, if he makes the opening day roster, or Brian De La Cruz, for example, there. So that's kind of the example we could see there. And he's already had dinner with Jazz. He's spoken about Sandy. He's gone to talk to these guys. That's the other nice news there. So I'm excited to see what happens. And as Danny mentioned, can't wait to see him in spring training with a newly renovated, hopefully, Roger Dean Stadium.
Well, we'll see. It could use some work for sure. Not much has changed in quite a while there. And John, any thoughts on the presser?
I liked it. I really liked that it wasn't just a all talk type of presser where it's just, oh, we're gonna win, we're gonna win, we're gonna win, as they always do. But Skip went in, he showed he's professional, even despite not having that managerial experience under his belt. He's shown that he's ready to make some moves in terms of wanting to go out there, look for the winner, try to build a culture. He also talked about how he was thinking about whether he should take the job or not. Like, this is something very important to him and his family. Remember, he's very young, So he's at that stage where his kids are growing up, and he's got to worry about his wife. He lives in California, and now he's coming across the country to go manage a Marlins team. And mind you, keyword the Marlins. So that's the big task right there. You're gonna try to turn a franchise around, but yeah, no, I liked what he said. He also mentioned he said that he was comparing himself with other coaches and managers on their type of style and seeing what's good, what's the bad, and what he wants to work on now moving into the Marlins and trying to build a pretty good culture here.
Yeah, and I love the energy coming from him. I got my first thought seeing him when that presser started. I was kind of thinking of a kid on signing day sitting between his parents. On there, he's just bouncing up in the seat. Let me get that jersey on. Let me get that hat, and just between Bruce and Kim, and just like a different different kind of pep, different kind of jolt. Of all the answers that he gave, and you kind of felt the energy being breathed back in. It's definitely the time of year for that. Hope springs eternal, even before spring training gets underway. But definitely seems that we're in excited hands, and I'm thinking they'll prove capable as well. Going to
It's
be able to
refreshing
come up
we
with the
didn't get a
players.
Yankee.
There we go.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this on our own pod.
Yes.
Who on on my pod with you guys on the Marlins roundtable? We're talking about that, and it was who on the who is a staff member on the Marlins who doesn't have Yankee ties, and there we go, Skip Schumacher.
Starts from the top, breaking away from.
And I think I also dwelled into how I said that instead of taking the Yankee approach, we should take more of the Cardinal approach. Try to be that team that isn't always trying to go for the World Series, but they're trying to stay relevant, trying to stay competitive. They're trying to win at least 80 games a year, trying to get their fan base involved. That's the type of model the Marlins should be building. And I think that type of model will bring fans back to the seats. So I applaud the Marlins for this hire.
Absolutely. Well, all right, guys. So let's have some fun on here. The main event here, and this idea is kind of inspired by also being into sports. I'm also into movies a lot. This particular movie pod I listen to does a lot of drafts. Picks a movie year or something, and goes through what worked, what didn't. So figure we'd try this out for Marlins baseball, and was trying to think of how to do this. Baseball is a little it's a little tricky to do with games, particularly. I mean, it's a long season. Games, to have real consequence, tend to have high stakes. And fortunately for the Marlins, our highest stake games we've done pretty well in historically. 3 trips to the postseason, 2 World Series. The 2020 trip, we were just happy to be there and won a series with there. It's hard to pick a regular season game that's going to stack up with Allen Houston's shot banking off the rim and going in to knock the Heat out, at the playoffs, or Dan Marino losing 62-7 in his last game. But definitely, games can count for this. We're going to have some categories to this. And first, I also want to say off the top that since this is fun on there's one event I think I'm going to disqualify off the jump. No one can pick Jose Fernandez at the end of the 2016 season. We're not going to pick the passing of Jose. That's an automatic victory for who is the saddest, most catastrophic list. So we don't need to pick that one. But if you want to pick his Tommy John surgery in 2014, have at it. What we're going to try to do is pick the most horrifying, in the spirit of Halloween, the most horrifying, twisted, just disgusted you, jolted you awake, made you shake your head. List of events, moments, games, trades, injuries in Marlins history. So I think we'll do 3 specific categories. Everyone needs to pick at least 1 trade, 1 free agent bust, and 1 injury through a season off the rails. And then after that, you have 2 wild cards where you could say it could be another one of those things. You could double down on a horrible trade or an injury, but it could also just be anything else under the sun that connects to the Marlins from 1993 to the present day, except for today because it was all great.
Let's do it. It sounds fun.
Any questions for you? Well, so all that needs to be determined is who's going to get to go first. I know. So you have to trust me that I'm working on the up and up. I've got a random number generator. I'm not gonna throw up on the screen. No free ads, but just kind of work our way, snake draft our way through. I'm going to be number 1. Kevin's 2. John is 3. Danny's 4. And we're going to spin for our order. All right. Let's see. All right. Danny, we'll be going first.
Yeah, let's go. All right. I'm on the
Okay,
clock.
and then followed by. You do this 2 more times, and we'll just know who's last. Okay, followed by John.
Okay, I'll take the 2.
Let me high five John up here.
All right, and hopefully this this works out. We're just going, I guess, up from bottom to top.
Kevin's gonna go last. I'm calling it.
And
Is this snake draft?
And it does. Okay, I'm going last.
Oh wow!
We're going like
When
that.
you're
Okay.
third, I'm picking
That's
fourth,
how
but
it
I do
is
get to
now.
pick 2 in a row.
Hmm.
So we'll see if the snake draft bump helps me out there at the end. But and I will keep track of this on an Excel sheet. I could throw up occasionally, but Danny, you get to pick first. What's the most horrific thing that is you can think of that has happened to be following the
Horrific
Marlins?
thing. I think this is easy. I think this is the easiest one. First overall pick in the 2022 Marlins Horror Draft. Daniel selects the trade return for Christian Yelich. That
Oh,
is my horror number 1 overall pick. It's the trade return. Lewis Brinson, Isan Diaz, Monte Harrison, Jordan Yamamoto. None of those guys are in the Marlins organization. Christian Yelich wins MVP. He's having some down seasons, but still when healthy, one of the better outfielders in baseball. And to not just have, it'll be a little different if one of those guys was a serviceable major leaguer, but to go let me see this. What? 0 for 4, strike out 4 times. Not good. That's why trade return for Christian Yelich is my number 1 pick.
That was very near the top of the list I put up for it. That is an excellent choice. That is no controversy attached to that. All right, John, you're up then.
All right. So with the 2nd overall pick in the Marlins Horror Draft, John will be selecting the trade return for the trade initiated on December 4th, 2007,
Knew it.
between the Florida Marlins and the Detroit Tigers.
I
The
knew
Marlins
it.
sent Miguel Cabrera and Dontrelle Willis to Detroit in exchange for Dallas Traherne, Burke Badenhop, Frankie De La Cruz, rest in peace, Cameron Maybin, Andrew Miller, and Mike Rabello. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I guess the most competent name on that list is very likely Cameron Maybin in terms of his Marlins career. I mean, you do have Andrew Miller in there, but his career was mainly built outside of South Florida. So, Mike Rabello, we couldn't see anything on that guy. Burke Badenhop pitched, I guess, two seasons here in Florida, and then he went over to Boston and Milwaukee. And then Frankie De La Cruz played a very short tenure. He sadly passed away last year. But yeah, we traded for a first ballot Hall of Famer who is pretty much the centerpiece for the Tigers every 4 months when he's breaking some other record. So, and Dontrelle Willis, that's a guy I love. Big fan favorite. I think a lot of the fan base was really, broken. Their hearts were broken when he went. And sadly, same for him. He's a guy who suffers with anxiety disorder. He loved it here in South Florida, and moving to another city and having to play with people he didn't really bond with much affected his mental state, and apparently that derailed his career. So that is not only, to me, the worst moment in Marlins history. I think it goes in a way other scale because it completely derailed a whole guy's career. So yeah, that's gonna be my pick.
Okay, yeah, no, I like it. That's definitely a dark stain on my memory. That one, I feel like that does go for me. It goes second, to the Yelich one, just in that at the time, we were excited about getting like what two of the top 10, 15 prospects in baseball, in exchange. Like they were really highly ranked, Miller and Miller and Maven. So there was like a couple months where you're like, well, this is horrible, but maybe it could work out. And we weren't expecting the hopper to be the best part of that package in return, but at least we got the hopper out of it, as opposed to the services of Lewin Diaz and Lewis Brinson and the rest. But yeah, no, great, strong pick. And Kevin, you are up.
So do I have to go with the trade or can I do something else?
No, you can do whatever you want.
Anything else? Okay,
Yeah.
Let's do it. So I'm going to go with free agent signing. And I think this is one of the worst ones. It lasted only 1 year, 2012. I've mentioned this to Danny. I've mentioned it to John. But I'm going to go with Heath Bell.
Oh,
Heath
No
Bell.
offense.
fun fact, I went
But
as Heath Bell 1 year for Halloween.
He was Heath Bell for Halloween once. That guy sucked on the Marlins. So that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to go Heath Bell. There are, John took my guy. No, it was Danny who took the Christian Yelich one. And then I was thinking about another trade, but this one actually it was a win-win type scenario here. So we're going to start with Heath Bell. And there it is. There it is.
Favorite moment is when he goes into Ozzie Guillen's office and he's rattling him out about how bad he's been at his job, and Heath Bell's just sitting there not taking his crap. Man, I love the franchise.
Yeah, that was not fun at all. I remember in going to a game in 2000, I think very late 2012 or maybe even 2013, and the giveaway, just because they had made so many, was at the end of the stadium was a kid's Heath Bell jersey. Like they just had like this couldn't sell them, so they just printed. I want to say maybe University of Miami Medical is behind it, and they just passing out the jerseys. And like my wife had that jersey for like 9 years because it fit her. Fine, but my only fond memory of Heath Bell was that jersey a moment later. Okay, so I'm up then. Let me look at my list, picking at the turn here, but I do get to go 2 times in a row. I will start with. Well, I will start with just the original bad decision for this market. I'm going to make my first pick in wild card, and I'm going to say breaking up the '97 World Champions. The 1998 fire sale will be my. Yeah, I can remember as a kid at the time, like hearing the background noise on this. That they're going to tear it down after this and everything, and me just thinking, well, there's no way they won. You can't do that. That's not what teams do. That's not how the world works. And then player after player is sent away, and that just set the tone for this market, for just the way South Florida views baseball in a negative light. It started with. Where as great as those '97 memories were, and do give the man on John's left, if you're watching the recording, credit for. He's got a picture of Wayne Huizinga behind him. Credit for that title, but also tore it down pretty quickly, and just here we are still kind of dealing with the legacy of that. All those years after the fact. So yeah, we're gonna go with 98 fire sale for wild card, and then let me think here what I want to. Anyone have any other want to vamp for me and talk 98 fire sale? I think of my
you took my next pick. I'll give you that one because there was a huge fire sale. I mean, what to keep? Alex Fernandez. That's all they kept, and I believe they also kept. He was injured.
Yeah, that was why it was very easy to keep him.
That's the only reason he wasn't traded, and they also kept Levon.
And Renneria lasted a while.
There it is.
I want to say he made it through 98, at least certainly halfway, but I think through the whole season.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Am I up or is it you again?
No, I'm still up. Let's see. All right. So yeah, number one on my list is breaking up 97, and then all right, I'm gonna Let's see. All right, I'm gonna go with. I'll fill up wild card again. No, I'm gonna go free agent. I'm gonna go free agent, and I'm gonna say the Wayne Chen contract. I think
Got it.
that's got to be in recent memory about the worst, free agent signing I can think of. Big, catastrophic financial consequences. If you think of that in terms of all the things that money could have been spent on for a team that didn't have, that much money to spend. Going back to when he was brought in, 16, 17, and 2 years after the fact, with the 2020 Marlins, have a little more money to spend on nice shiny things. And particularly the way releasing him then went. The way that they released him right before there was, maybe someone remembers the exact financial circumstances, but basically the Marlins would have got amnesty initially on the salary if they had kept him, but they did the right thing and finally cut him with there, and then we're still out, $20 million. And so just good money after bad, after worse. Big suck on our books for every year that he was present. It's the most devastating free agent decision I can think of in Marlins history. So those are my two picks, which kicks us back to Kevin. Unless anyone wants to complain about Chen for.
No one mentioned this trade, so I'm going to use my trade here. I'm going to use the JT Realmuto trade.
Ooh,
guys, he's in the World Series. He's an all-star. He's the best catcher in baseball. And Jorge Alfaro is no longer a Marlin. Who's yet? Sixto, we'll see.
Will Stewart.
And then the final, and Will Stewart, who probably won't be a major leaguer for the Marlins. I was actually very surprised that his name was circulating last year to make the opening day roster. So, yeah, JT trade. I mean, Miami could have had the catcher solved by now. You wouldn't have had to worry about it. I believe they could have kept him for even a bit longer if they really wanted to. So, yeah, I'm going JT trade here, and then I guess it's John's turn. If anyone wants to add to any of that, of course.
Well,
I mean,
the thing with JT,
it looks worse by the day, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's the World Series plays out.
I think the thing with the JT though is that he personally requested to be traded. That's the thing. Like, it's not like a thing where he wanted to stay. He wanted to be traded. He wanted to go to a contender. But I think the Marlins' mistake here was trading with a division rival. That's just not something that you really want to do there. But what can you do?
I do agree. Him like that definitely, I think, puts it down a little farther down the list. That's why we didn't lead off with who's looking like the World Series MVP potentially, or in the running from it, is the fact that he wasn't staying there. So that was one where our hands were maybe tied. What we would have needed to do to avoid that is do 4 less horrible things the year and a half before to keep him from wanting to leave. But it certainly stings, and it's a worthy pick.
Yeah, I also would have assumed the return would have ended up a little bit better, at least with Sixto, but look how it's ended out. Not good at all.
Yeah, that is true. Sixto, I mean, we'll see what he does in 2023 if he exists, but we'll have to wait on that for sure. So I got next pick?
Yep, you got next pick.
All right. Oh, man. We're going to take it back to 2006, a fun season for the Marlins. And I think my next pick is going to go to the infamous firing of Joe Girardi in 2006.
Oh, wow.
So how this happened was in 2006, there was a game where Jeffrey Loria, the owner at the time, was he was attending, and he did not like the umpire's calls, so he kept rattling him out. And what happened was the umpire came over to Girardi and he told him to tell Loria to kind of, calm down. Girardi goes over to Loria and he starts confronting him like, hey, you got to chill out. We're playing a game here. Well, Loria doesn't want to take his stuff. He's warning him. He's trying to put his job in jeopardy. And yeah, there was some beef between the two. But something you need to know here is in 2006, the Marlins were, I want to say 20 games under 500, and Joe Girardi, with that very young core, he brought that team back up. Their morale went up. The team started playing better, and around the second half, they started playing to an almost 80-plus win team. They finished just, I think, 2 games shy. But that same season, Girardi gets fired, and 2 years later, Girardi wins the World Series with the Yankees. So it just adds up to the pain there. Very terrible that incident. I think that was very unprofessional of Loria. And I know he's the boss, he's the man in charge, but terrible call. Terrible call. But
No,
yeah, that's what we love.
absolutely agree. To really put that 2016 we're feeling so good about it. Like, hey, the rebuild only took 1 year after
Yeah.
you toward the 2015. I see like every prospect hit. It's amazing. Hanley wins Rookie of the Year, and then Girardi wins Manager of the Year. Like,
Yeah, he does. That's another
or
thing.
and they left that out, and then just our owner's insane. He's Napoleon. Got it. I'm sure this won't be a problem going forward. And then the 07 season just went totally off the rails. There's a lot of injuries tied to that, but still, it just seemed like we were cursed for a year there, and then some. As a result.
Yeah, but after that, I mean, after New York hasn't gone too good for him, so. Yeah, I mean, well, he's gonna win a World Series ring possibly, so let's just keep that in mind. if the Phillies win and they choose to give him a ring, he will have another World Series ring, right? He managed the World Series Yankees, so yeah.
All right, my turn, right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna go. You mentioned wild card. I'm gonna go really off wild card. It's gonna be a draft pick. And for this, it's going to be probably the worst draft pick in Marlins history. 1994. Kev was -10 at that time.
Yeah,
I know it is.
The draft pick of Mr. Booty, Mr. Josh Booty at number 5. This guy had a commitment to LSU as a starting quarterback. The Marlins had to pay this guy, and at that time, record-breaking $1.6 million. And you might be wondering, why is it so bad? Well, number 12 was a little-known guy named Nomar Garcia-Parra. Right after Nomar, Parker Nerco, and right after Parker Nerco was Jason Varitek. 3 guys who could have changed the Marlins' fortune right upside down, turn them into a really great team, especially going to 97 matches, having Garcia-Parra or Varitek or Konerko, any of those guys. But they chose Mr. Josh Booty, who you might be wondering how many games he played in the majors. 0. 500 minor league games. He struck out 600 times. Not good player at all. Probably should have just stuck to football. And just overall not great at all. He tried going to football, got drafted, never played. But for the Miami, horrible draft pick, 6th round pick by the Seahawks, but he never saw a snap in the NFL, and didn't work out for Miami at all. But I'm going to go Josh Booty just because of the other guys that they could have gotten, especially that early in the franchise for Miami. Imagine getting a guy like Garcia-Parra, Varitek, and they get a guy Booty. Mr. Booty.
That is hard to argue with, and I love that someone can remember some of these early draft picks on here. But that is
my next one. I'm going to go a signing. I'm not going to go a big $100 million signing or even $50 million signing. I'm going to go with one that just played horrible, was not good in terms of how much the Marlins gave him. I'm going to go with a reliever, Junichi Tazawa. $12 million for 2 years, $6 million AAV for a relief pitcher. And after his first season, 3-5, a 5.69 ERA, was designated for assignment. And in 2018 was worse, had a 9 ERA. Junichi Tazawa for $12 million. $12 million. A lot of money for a guy for a career ERA with the Marlins of 6.57. He had a 7 ERA with the Marlins for $12 million. Not good at all. My 2 picks, Booty and Tazawa, who both were Booty.
Love the Tazawa pick, and just if I could, and just I think part of the pain there is just the background that went into that decision. So 2017 was the plan of let's have the super bullpen with there. Mm-hmm. So the Marlins, they tried to get Aroldis Chapman, they tried to get Kenley Jansen and sign, and when they just when they didn't sign, then the next, let's just sign whatever money we would have paid them. Let's just sign the next 3 best relievers, which according to the market and their estimations, the general manager's office was Tazawa on there, and then I think is that when we signed Ziegler as well, or
yeah, I believe so.
Tazawa, that's John's guy for sure.
And then I think there was one other guy as part of that, and just not not a good return. Did not work out according to plan. So all right, we're about halfway through. So Danny has filled trade, free agent, and wild card. John, you've signed your free agent and wild card signing for you. Kevin, you've done trade and free agent. And then I've got one free agent and one wild card left to work with. But John, you are on the board.
Okay. So for my next pick, I think this is my third overall or fourth overall?
Yeah.
Third.
Pick.
So with my third overall pick, he'll appear on my screen in a second. Oh boy, it's a wild card, but I'm gonna go with this incident happened in this one game against the Diamondbacks. It'll load. Oh no.
Oh, it's there, John.
Is it?
Sir.
Is that
Yeah.
Hanley?
Hanley
Mhm.
Ramirez kicking the ball and getting kicked out of the game right after that. He allows this very infamous, and I think it's honestly the worst play I've ever seen and witnessed in person in my whole life. I've never seen something so bad in my, what is it now? I think I'm going on to 17 years as a Marlins fan. As a very little kid, I've been watching the Marlins, and in all my life, I've never seen a play so bad, so lazy, so out of place than Hanley Ramirez kicking that ball and allowing, I think, 2 runs to score, and the Marlins completely lost that game. And this was a season, I think this was in 2008 or 9, I think even 10, one of those 3. And around those years, the Marlins were actually a decent team to watch and play. You know, they were actually
that cost
good.
us.
That cost them. And at the time, the manager, Freddie Gonzalez, came over to Hanley when he went to the dugout, had a chat with him. He said, "Hey, grab your bat, grab your stuff. You're getting out of this game." He had no hustle. You even heard Tommy Hutton in the broadcast saying that, like, he wasn't even trying. He just kicked the ball and he started jogging over towards it, and that ball was all the way in foul territory, back in Sun Life Stadium, whatever it was called at the time. It had like 20 names, and then when he was jogging over for that ball, the second one was already rounding third on his way home. The Marlins allowed, this was a time when they were at least contending to go to the playoffs, and unfortunately, man, did things change after that play right there. And I know it's just one game, and I know it's just one play, but in baseball, you can't have that laziness. You can't have that lack of hustle. Baseball is a game where you play with grit, you play with passion, and you play with adversity. You overcome obstacles. And I know it's 162 games, but that's what makes the World Series even much more respectable. You play a lot of games, and your goal is to win it all. And I think that's the biggest championship in sports. Sorry if I offended anybody, if it's probably the NFL or any of the others, but I think it's the World Series. You play 162 games. You're expected to be healthy. You're expected to be consistent. You're in the playoffs. Your goal is to win games. And as small as the playoffs are, and as big as the regular season is, goes to show it's the game of inches. And Hanley Ramirez sent that one not even inches. It sent it yards. That ball was far away from him. That ball was probably a touchdown, and if it was configured for Dolphins. But yeah, that's one of the worst moments for me, at least as a fan. Got to be on there.
All right.
I'm up.
You're up.
Alrighty. I'm gonna go with the draft pick here as well.
Oh, I know where this is going.
You know where this is going, huh?
Yep.
Kept stealing my ideas per usual.
Per usual. I gotta use my wild card selection here, and I'm gonna go with the Tyler Kolek draft pick. I mean, I don't think this could have gone this bad for the Marlins. The guy never even stepped on the major league field except when he got introduced, probably. So he sucked. He was not good. I'm pretty sure injuries derailed his career as well. But there he is. There he is. With Michael Hill. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. Tyler Kolek. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything. I really wasn't around for this, but I know he was really, really bad.
Short and sweet. Just like his
Yeah.
tenure.
And it was one of his. It was. I'll just say it was one of our highest first round picks. It's like this young, like we've we've had a pretty good string of mediocre seasons, in our history, where we don't get, Marlins don't have a ton of number one, number two, number three picks. So like picking Tyler Cullick was pick number 3 on there. You usually think you're going to hit on someone that's going to be serviceable, useful. 3 or 4, right?
2.
Yeah, right. He was 2.
So that's even worse.
Something to add on to that is that the Marlins tanked. They went 62-100 the previous season. They were starting Placido Polanco every single day. They had Juan Pierre in the outfield, the fossil at the time. And if you look at the draft order, yes, the Astros did kind of fail that first pick. It was Brady Aiken. He never played a single game in the major leagues. But the 3rd overall pick is literally Carlos Rodon. The 4th overall pick is a guy who's playing in the World Series right now, Kyle Schwarber. And the 7th overall pick is Aaron Nola. Like, there was other options.
They could have had Aaron Nola and Sandy. Just imagine that. Maybe they would have traded Aaron Nola. Who knows? But
yeah, like there was options in that draft, and the Marlins decided to go with Tyler Kolek.
What year was this again? 2012?
2014. And
that was not Trout year. Okay, no.
Trey Turner. Michael Conforto would have been decent.
It's a horror show.
Matt Chapman was on that list as well. I agree. To me, I like that we mentioned Booty before we mentioned Kolek. I do think Booty was a worse pick because you had literally Paul Konerko on that list. But Booty, yeah. I mean, Kolek does deserve to be the second
Both are Booty.
Both are Booty. That's true.
All right. So I'm up then. I've already. Now the Marlins are a team that does a lot of those, a lot of the horror moments. I think are like, these weird things, like just like crazy ideas that the front office had, or incidents. Like it'd be great to have 3 or 4 wild cards for this, but as we only have 2, I'm gonna do a little game theory here, and I still need a trade on there. All right, so I'm gonna talk about something that I'm not gonna pick for wild card to set up, and I'm gonna pick for trade on there. What I had really high on my list was, I'll leave this open for someone else to pick on there. But so a version of it is going to be, I'll put the Derek Lee trade. I'll put that. There were a couple of key roster decisions that were made that offseason that just really kind of suck some of the wind out of the sails. It'd be a missing piece that you thought would have made a big difference, and just based on the season that they went on to have, would have made a huge difference in the outcome of that team. I think if you had Lee at first base for the whole season, then they just found a little more special money, to spend on that one. That you probably are talking about that team at least making it back to the playoffs if they had done either one of 2 things differently that offseason. That was definitely one of them. The centerpiece of the return for that was our famed first baseman Haesop Choi, who was red hot for the month of April. I want to say 8 home runs, and it might have been 9 in that season's first month. And there, looked great. You're like, wow, those Loria did it again. God bless him. And then just the production trickled off, crashed hard, ended up flipping a mid-season to get back. Honestly, just some of the guys we should have kept him. One guy we should have kept to begin with, probably, and some other pieces to try to make a run. But if they had not made that trade, I consider that to be, it's certainly behind the Cabrera trade. It's behind the Yelich trade, but I think that's actually just in terms of just impacting wins and losses and success of the team for a couple of years there. That's got to be one of the worst trades.
I agree on
then I'll say Dan Jennings for wild card. I use my second wild card on the entire decision to name your general manager who had not coached baseball since 1 year coaching a high school team to be the active manager of a major league club. When the 2015 Marlins found themselves at 16-22, the exact same record that the Marlins were when Jeff Torborg was fired and Jack McKeon was brought in. In 2003, Loria, a big fan of his franchise history and recapturing that magic, went back to the well and this time, unfortunately, is much less discriminating in his search for a new manager. I think I joked on Kevin's pile last week that he just picked the first guy he saw in the hallway. That had to
There he is.
that had to have been what happened with tapping Dan Jennings as the man in charge, and just really made ourselves a laughing stock for the rest of that season. And because I think a big factor in honestly bringing in our recently departed manager Don Mattingly was after the horror show 2015. Like, what's the exact opposite of Dan Jennings? It's a Don Mattingly
True.
taking the reins. But yeah, that's certainly about as embarrassed as I've been to be a Marlins fan. Was anytime he had to make a baseball decision from middle of May onwards in 2015.
All right.
That's-
So my next pick, I did have one in line, but thanks to John, he showed Michael Hill. So I'm going to choose for my wild card. I believe it's my second wild card. I'm not sure. I do think it's my second one. It is.
Oh,
Yeah, I had Kolek and now I have Michael Hill. Miami not bringing back Michael Hill. Guys, Michael Hill was really, really good. I mean, you got to give him credit for what he did in 2020 with that team and how he was constructing that rebuild. I do believe that things could have been different with Michael Hill moving now. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten Avisail Garcia. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten, there he is, Michael Hill. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten Soler. Who knows? But, he was pretty good. He was one of the better guys. He was okay. And it kind of sucked losing him because, you think of 2003 and how long he's been with the organization. Letting him go was kind of a mistake. Jeter kind of didn't want him there anymore is what the rumor was. And I mean, you bring in Kim. Let's hope she has a good offseason. That's a conversation for another day, but I'm not going to go into a big comparison on them right now. But I do believe losing Michael Hill kind of sucked. Now with this team kind of needing a CEO, it would have been nice to have maybe Michael Hill in that position as the CEO. He would have been a great fit there. Knows this organization from top to bottom perfectly fine. Has been with the Marlins for many, many years. Has the experience of a general manager. He's been everywhere in that organization. So I would have liked him as the CEO, but I'll go right now with my second final wild card with Miami, as Sean put there, axing Michael Hill. The axe of Michael Hill.
I think what we did see around that time was a lot of purging in that whole organization when the new regime took over. Not only that, if there was a third wild card spot, it would probably be that they got rid of Rich and Tommy. That was an elite duo, and I absolutely love tuning into my TV. I don't care how bad or how good the Marlins were every single night, but listening to them, man, they were a show. Especially Tommy, when he would throw his fits, that was the best thing ever. And apparently they didn't stick with that, and I feel like doing the same thing. And all his
All
favorite.
right. I like the use. I like the use of the line.
I love Rich and Tommy. I mean, Rich's voice and Tommy going together, that bond, man. Like there was something with that bond. And then when you come and compare it to Paul and Todd when they came in,
They
and
sounded the same.
they did right, and they sounded like homers, like both of them. But no disrespect to Paul, I actually don't mind Paul. Paul is
I
okay,
like Paul. Paul's cool.
but I don't like that they're doing all this rotational thing with Paul. I like that there is a steady guy, a guy who's there every single night. And I got to give credit to this other guy who joined this year, which is Gabby. Gabby put some nice analysts and comparing himself to his career. He kind of put a nice balance to that, unlike another guy, JP. Even though JP did improve, JP did make some improvements along the way. But I enjoyed listening to uh, to Gabby a lot more. But man, losing Rich and Tommy was just such a huge turn off from the Marlins for me. Am I
Yeah.
next? Oh wait, I am.
yes, you got to make a pick.
Okay, so with my next pick, I'm gonna go injury with this one. You might think I'm going Jose Fernandez injury, but no, I'm going with a similar injury that happened around that same kind of year span. And I'm gonna go with this one right here. Oh, hold on.
I
I'm
think
gonna
I
go
know
with
what
this.
it is. I am almost certain I know what it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
with
I got it.
What, did this happen in Milwaukee?
this happened in Milwaukee. Is the Giancarlo Stanton
Yeah.
hit in the face and gone for the rest of the season incident. He got hit in the face by Mike Myers by an 88-mile-per-hour fastball right to the
Fires,
cheek.
yeah.
Remember there was that famous picture I think he posted on Instagram, I think, and it was him with the surgery. He was like that. He got a bunch
Oh
of
yeah.
stitches.
Yeah.
But I think the worst part about that was obviously losing Giancarlo, who was a huge piece in that 2014 team. And you're talking about a team who surprised a lot because he was actually doing pretty good. He like the Marlins were actually playing good baseball in 2014. Casey McGee was having an amazing season that year.
He
Henderson
got
Alvarez,
ejected right after.
yeah.
Yep.
Henderson Alvarez was pitching really well. The Marlins were on the verge of hitting 80 wins and potentially putting themselves in a playoff spot. But in Marlins fashion, something has to come in and ruin everything. Stanton gets hit in the face. We lose Stanton. The Marlins lose games and they miss the playoffs. So just by the fact that we lost the spark plug, I would say, in Giancarlo is that's about it. And fuck Mike Fires. He got what he deserves when Stanton hit a home run off of him in what was it 2018 or something like that. He hit a home run in
I think it
Detroit.
was 2019.
He sent that one to the moon.
Good moment. Right. Yeah, Sam Giancarlo is going for the MVP that year too. It's like right in the thick of it between him and McCutcheon and Kershaw. That
I
year
remember
and
that.
that just fell off on there. I was really looking like we were getting that first MVP award that season until he went out. The definitely think it's a good pick. I'm going to feel a little evil suggesting this. As it became clear over the next week that he was fine, did anyone else, occur to you briefly for a moment that, well, maybe it's more likely he resigns here? Because, he had not been signed yet. His contract status was very much up in the air at that point. And then I'm like, well, it'd be really nice of the Marlins to do is offer to pay him before he plays again, after this injury. And then, weeks into the offseason, $325 million contract is offered. And it's a lot of money to turn down.
Fires
doesn't he take that if he was fully healthy and won the MVP?
And then Fires went right off and hit the designated hitter for Stanton. I forgot his name right now, but I know it was such a big argument because it looked like he had swung, but he was just trying to protect himself from getting hit in the face. And then Mike Fires was taken out of the game. Casey McGee was ejected.
Reed Johnson was in that mix.
It was Reed Johnson. It was Reed Johnson who was about that. Yeah.
McGee, was
a legend.
Crazy. Crazy game.
All right. I'm up.
You're up.
All right. I want to leave wild card for my later one because I'm struggling between two. But for injury, I think it's not a specific injury. It's more of just career injuries. I'm going to go with Josh Johnson. Could have been the ace of the ace of the ace in terms of just baseball and just being the Marlins' top guy. Injuries just derailed his career. He could have been so much better than what he actually was. Could have been top pitchers in the NL, definitely for the Marlins. And he had really great stuff. I know John is a gigantic fan of Mr. Josh Johnson. I am too. When he was healthy, he was easily one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Just injuries. He had one season, I believe he played 6 games, one season, 14, and then just mix of injuries. But when he was healthy, was easily the best in baseball. And then for my wild card, I'm kind of stuck between two. There's one specific moment, and then the other one is the entirety of it. But I'm going to go with my wild card horror is the rebrand to Miami Marlins.
Oh.
The original rebrand to the Miami Marlins.
Bring back the teal. You know who says that, huh?
It was everything gone wrong. Everything, looking at it, at just when it first happened, signing all these guys. We have a new stadium. The front office is in it now. We're ready to win. And then you look at everything that happened in that rebrand to Miami Marlins so far and all those colors and everything. You mentioned you just had Tyler Kolek wearing that Miami Marlins gear. That's one of the bad things that happened. Heath Bell not working out, Wei and Chin, Tozawa, all these guys that we're mentioning are guys who wore those orange, green, whatever, yellow jerseys for the Marlins. Yeah, look at that. Come on now. That whole rebrand, that was just not good. The stadium and how everything was handled there with them financially and everything was not great. Marlins fumbled heavily in this rebrand, and that's why they did it now. And now it's gone much smoother. But for that period, that era, that Miami Marlins 1.0, definitely a horror show, definitely a horror movie, if not really bad.
Yeah,
Those are-
they definitely could have done better on the jersey selection. I would say I like these now. These are pretty okay. I don't, they're not the best, but it's better than this. I'll
It's an
definitely tell you that
improvement
much.
for sure.
It's an
Yeah.
improvement. I do
No.
feel like they're missing a jersey. They're missing a blue jersey.
A blue one.
Teal, perhaps. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Let's see if they bring him back for this next season against the Yankees.
Something I wanted to add to this whole rebranding, and I love that D-Rod, you mentioned this, because this grabs everything that we've spoken about in 2020, 2012 all the way to 2017 that we've named on there all together, because it's like the general aspect of it. I like that you made it a problem since the very beginning. David Sampson wanted to get rid of the teal. He said it. He was very bleak about it. He said, "Let's get rid of the teal. Let's go all rainbow mode. Let's pretend it's." I guess I don't know if they were going for an '80s Miami feel because they wanted to go with all these neon colors, even though those are not really the colors that resemble the city.
Gray. Ugh,
Yeah, you're thinking more of a neon pink, a neon blue, something like that. I guess that's
Miami Vice.
black. Miami Vice,
Yeah.
right?
Look
That's
at the
the
Heat.
colors of the nightlife of Miami, and
like
Miami's
orange
known
works for
as-
some teams. Like look at the Dolphins, the Hurricanes. Orange works there, but baseball
right? Yeah.
only for the
The
Orioles.
gray jerseys weren't that bad though. The gray were not that bad. Out of this, that may have been the best one.
But that's the thing. That's
I'd
the thing,
agree.
Kevin. That's what makes it the worst thing.
Yeah.
Because the gray is
No,
supposed to be your
it's bad.
crappiest,
It's bad.
Yeah.
But out of that,
When your
rebrand-
best jersey is gray,
right?
it's
No, yeah, I know.
It's a
I know what you
problem.
mean. I know exactly what you mean. I'm just saying. It's just if I had to choose, it would be that one.
Not only that, then I like that you also delved into the whole stadium issue. Jeffrey Loria broke a bunch of contracts in that Dade County, City of Miami thing, and he had to pay money to the team, the city, the county. There was a bunch of broken contracts in there. The whole thing was such a mess.
the
He was-
drafting.
Oh man, it was horrible. He was even like threatening the fans to move the team over to San Antonio. I think you guys remember that. I think Sean remembers that a little more.
almost signing A-Rod probably.
Signing Pujols, remember that was almost
Yeah.
a thing?
Oh, yeah, that was a fun 3 days. We thought we were getting him, but
That's,
yeah, everything that went into that. And just like this you guys, John, you probably remember this too, that the lie, been told for, so long that this was all about once we got a new stadium, that all the financial problems would be solved, right?
Mhm.
So that was like, okay, I can suck up everything. Thank you, sir. May I have another? I can suck up everything that's happened from 1998 to 2011 because of the fact that they didn't have their own stadium.
right?
And then you're going to spend more. You sign all these guys, sustainable spending on there. Keep putting your money into the product, and you get just the rug yanked down from under you like 2/3 of the way through that season, if not a month and a half, of thinking that maybe this is going to be more of the same, and then just everything that followed, from that rebranding on there. And in terms of this draft, I do love the game theory, Danny, on there. I think between just having 2012 and Josh Johnson's injuries, that has taken off a big chunk of my remaining board.
Yeah. I had to pick that rebrand.
Weird 2012
overall.
stuff. Or
Not great. That
Or
whole
JJ.
rebrand, everything about it was definitely a horror movie.
Dude,
It
who
was.
would be John's free agent?
And,
There's a couple choices.
yeah.
I could go
know
back.
John.
I could expand so much more on that 2012 thing. Like I
That's
remember,
a whole pod on its
But
own.
it is.
It is. I remember attending the first ever Marlins game at Marlins Park. First ever game. I was there.
Me too. I was there. I came
They
in.
brought when they introduced the players, they brought like these cheerleaders.
Oh yeah.
And they were like walking with the players. The players were all ready. Everybody was so hyped. They're like, "Oh, Jose Reyes, Heath Bell."
Yeah,
they're
they brought in
here.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad
Muhammad
Ali.
Ali.
And Jeffrey Loria is sitting next to him. Poor Muhammad Ali, rest in peace. Literally, it can barely be out there. And Jeffrey Loria is sitting next to him,
Just
shaking
all the
everyone's
energy sucked
hand.
out.
Talking about
He's the
Danny.
greatest athlete
He's-
ever, but just the
You,
presentation
you
there
can't boo
was
Muhammad Ali.
horrible.
You can't. You can boo Jeffrey
can't.
Loria any
You
day.
can't.
You
You
can't boo
can't,
Muhammad
and I
Ali.
think that's the highest, like the highest crowd
He's like a
surge Jeffrey
shield.
Loria has ever heard for himself.
Yeah, he's
It
like,
was-
oh, this is for me. No, not a single person's for you.
and
All right.
Ozzie Guillen, are we gonna forget about that?
All right, let's
Oh,
move
my
on, John.
God.
John,
Yeah,
let's go.
You
This
got to
is-
go. You're trying to think of another free agent.
Oh, I got it. I'm getting that picture right now. Oh God. So
Is it
for
a
my
catcher,
last
John?
pick,
Is it a catcher?
I
I think I know who it is.
So with my signing pick, one of the worst signings I've ever witnessed in my life is, yes, Kevin, you are correct. Jared Saltalamacchia.
There we
is the
go.
pick. Boy, what was that guy? Just awful, and I mean terrible to watch. There's literally a video on YouTube you could go out, and I don't mean to go on your pod, Sean, and literally shout out another video here, but there's a video. It's called Jared Saltalamacchia thank you video or something like that, and it's all of Jared Saltalamacchia's highlights in this team, aka lowlights, and it's playing the song that goes "I'll be missing you" or something like that.
Please send me that video.
And there's videos of him like trying to throw over to second.
Sing more of the song.
Wait, he comes off the World Series.
The one
like
that goes
20 home
every
runs,
single day.
Oh yeah.
That's oh my god. He's trying to throw to second because they're stealing. He misses the ball completely. He can't aim. He can't hit for you know what I'm gonna say after. I mean,
I saw him hit a home run.
many people talk about John Buck, right? John Buck was another catcher that we spent a lot of money. But John Buck is essentially Jacob Stallings. Like he was a little better with the glove, but Saltalamacchia, my goodness. And they overhyped the signing because he was a part of that Red Sox chip, and you know he was actually
winning experience. Yeah, that was the big thing on that signing was that he was there. That's great.
And he came in to replace, I believe in 2013 we had Olivo and we had what's his name? He was so bad. He's like on the Yankees now or White Sox. Man, what's his name? He was the catcher. I can't remember his name now. I can't believe I can't remember now. But he was like the starter. Rob Brantley. There it is.
Okay.
Oh my God. Like, I guess if we're comparing Saltalamacchia to Rob Brantley, it's an improvement, but not by any standards because the amount of money. I think it was like a $24 million deal to Salty, something like that, for like 2 years. But oh my God, that was awful. And then after that, I think that's when JT evolved. And
Well, that's the positive spin on it, right? Salty made it very easy to do some make some predictions in 2015. I think based on like 15 game sample size in 2015, I'm writing, it could be a good move. He keeps this up. I think the Marlins might go to Salta. They might go to this JT Realmuto kid full time. That happened quickly. It was one of the proudest moments I was of the Marlins. Honestly, was when they just cut him. All the money tied to that they had to, throw up. Just kind of throw out the window for the Marlins to realize that we're better off paying him to just not be here at all, and to start Realmuto. I thought that was pretty big. But
Jeff Mathis was a better
sign.
catcher to have than Jared Saltalamacchia here. Like that tells you something.
So I'm up.
You're up.
You're up.
Okay, I'm not gonna choose the Jose injury. I want to be a little bit different with this one, and I'm gonna go to 2020. And I'm going to go with the Starlin Marte injury. When he got injured, I believe this was in the playoffs, game 1. I do believe if Miami had Starlin Marte for the NLDS, it could have been a little bit more competitive because they were leading the Braves at one point. And this kind of just put him on the trajectory where, they kind of believed that they could win, and he got traded eventually. But I'm going to go with Starlin Marte. I do believe that injury kind of changed the course of that playoff run for Miami. They were at an all-time high when it came to their motivation. These guys were in it. They knew it. They were beating the Braves 3-0. They beat the Braves to basically get in the playoffs. I know they had to beat the Yankees after, but they kind of put themselves in that position against the Braves, and you lose your star player because let's be honest, Starlin Marte was the star player on the Miami Marlins when he arrived. That kind of just broke that playoff run, and I wanted to be a little bit different with my selection here, and I'm gonna go with that. I believe it was a finger injury, if anyone wants to remember. He broke his thumb or something.
In the wild card off Dan Winkler. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
he was like
a
holding his
It
hand.
definitely
And
sucked a lot of the fun out of that win. I mean, you're pumped you won a playoff series, but then
you lost your star.
that's it. There we go.
shout out to
All
Mike
right.
Trout on that trade.
So that leaves me with injury, and I had 3 on my list. I made it to begin with. I had like 17 things on the list and only 3 injuries. So I was a little worried about what I do if these all went. 2 of them are still on the board. On there though, I didn't think I'd have a chance to pick Jose, but I'm wondering if I need to match you guys and go different as well. There, I'm between. I'm closing out. Like I guess share here. I can go either way between Jose's Tommy John surgery or Mike Lowell's injury in 2003, but that worked out okay.
Right.
That worked out all right. So I think I'm going to go with Jose Tommy John 2014. There, your teams, teams playing better, teams playing competitive baseball. And they're on the heels of a 2013 Rookie of the Year campaign. Kids lighting the world on fire. He's a pleasure to watch. He's making it worth turning on the games. And just kind of like we just saw a whole season with Sandy, right? You could just really it's this one thing you could rally behind. Such a great display. You're really excited about the trajectory of this career, what this could mean for the season, and then just he goes out, he's pointing at his arm, what it is there, and I think they initially announced it as like elbow tenderness, and you're like, oh great, well that doesn't sound that bad, with that's not immediate, and then a few days later, just done for the season, Tommy John surgery. There, and then what just follows up with that is the fact that the Marlins stay competitive, right? That Casey McGahee had his comeback player of the year season, that Stanton went on an MVP run, Henderson Alvarez, put it together. That, man, if only this team had one more good pitcher, on them. Then, I think that 2014 team really could have, made some noise if they had their 2 best players healthy, for them, the whole season and for the month of September. So I'll be going with the Jose Tommy John injury for.
They were Mark Burley shy.
And that team was supposed to be good that year where Jose got injured. I believe it was 2014. They were supposed to be really good that year.
That's why they got salty.
Yeah.
Bring that pedigree, man.
Yeah.
Part of it.
They were supposed to be good, and Jose's injury kind of ruined the trajectory.
Any honorable mentions or horror mentions?
I wanted to do the honorable mention in a wild card of the Marlins not re-signing Starlin Marte, because look where we are now, still looking for a center fielder. So I mean, you have Jesus Luzardo, but you didn't re-sign him, and on top of that, you didn't bring him at all after the fact. I know you got outbid by the Mets, but you could have done a little bit more of an effort. And if you were offering the money that was reported in free agency, why didn't you just do it during the season itself?
Yep.
You had the opportunity to keep Starlin Marte. Right now we would not be talking about Brian Reynolds. We wouldn't be talking about Brandon Nimmo in the offseason. But look where we are. We're talking about those guys, and most likely maybe one out of the 2 comes. Who knows? I don't know idea, but I just think we wouldn't be talking Starlin Marte, and he's an all-star. He was an all-star.
Okay.
So
I like the only thing I'd push back on. I like the risk. I mean, like we'd be talking about Kim Ng as like Pat Riley 2.0. If she had pulled that off, if she had traded Starling Marte for Jesus Luzardo and then re-signed him, after it, that
would have been a fleet.
That was the idea. And then just the. But that's I can see that. John, do you have an honorable mention?
I have a couple. So my first one is 1997 World Series parade. Billy the Marlin's head coming off the helicopter. He was skydiving. His head like flies away, and then it was like an
And
embarrassing moment. There was like news reports for weeks. Where did Billy's head go? It was a crazy time.
I had
I
no
read on
idea.
that. That was hilarious. Another moment is not a bad moment, but a moment I want to give a shout out to. So we were mentioning Jose Fernandez's injury. There was a fan who didn't shave or cut his hair until Fernandez came back from his Tommy John surgery. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah. And
he made it on the broadcast a couple times.
he did. And let me see. There's another one. Man, there was another moment that I had in my mind that just faded away. I think it had to be. Oh, I know. I was stuck around the 2000s and 2010s. I want to go present day. The Marlins calling on Mets fans thing. Oh my God, that pissed me off. That was so bad.
That's a recent. That's got to be the winner for most recent. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was. There was already so much pain at that point. I think if that had happened
Yeah.
mid-season when we weren't numb yet, that would have
God,
been higher.
that was so bad.
Yeah, mine was my honorable mentions. I had trading Adrian Gonzalez after drafting him
Ooh.
first overall pick. Turned into a 40-something WAR player, really great first baseman. Trading him for John, again, his favorite player. Let me see if I see here. Ugref Urbina. Trade with the Rangers.
But what year did that happen, though?
This was June 2003. So he was already 3 years in the Marlins organization. He had a wrist injury in the Marlins.
Sean's
Boy.
just showing you the World Series championship hat,
Just-
Danny.
Yeah, they didn't know, so they traded him for Geff Urbina, a pitcher. I don't even know. And then Adrian Gonzalez turns out to have a really great, at least Hall of Fame ballot type career. And then the second one was the one I was going against for rebrand of Miami. I wanted to have maybe not the whole thing, but it was just a night. And I don't want to say
Oh boy.
what happened on this night. I kind of just want to play it for you. Vuvuzuela night in 2010.
Oh, I
World Cup plays
remember.
in I believe South Africa are just, it was incredible. It was, you hear all this noise. Yes, if I can put it again. You hear all that? That's
bad.
playing the game, and you hear all those Vuvuzuelas out there. Must be the worst thing out there. And even Cody Ross, I think, mentioned something about playing there, and it was just bad.
Oh, that was
You probably
And
couldn't hear
Tim
it.
Attention thought it
dark
was
moment for
success.
sure.
I think-
My two honorable mentions were
Definitely horror.
I had, so when I mentioned the other thing that was close to the lead trade on there, I couldn't fit this in because I was at a wild card. So, but I was really thinking was not keeping Pudge on there. I mean, because at the time, like trading Lee, I was able to kind of talk myself into it, kind of get it, from the contract perspective. But Pudge was the one, you have the catcher, the fire on the team. You kind of thought that he was, a little more of the, glue guy, force behind that championship club. And that was just quibbling over a year. Like the Marlins had like 3 years on the table for him, and Pudge is like, I'd like 4. And that was apparently a deal breaker for the Marlins. And so it's not like they were handing out no trade clauses, like Candy or anything. They could just give him the 4th year, and if this doesn't work out, then deal with it. Deal with it down the road. Right? Pudge was good for multiple seasons. After that, they could have easily moved him for prospects if they wanted to.
Can we consider Stanton trade a horror moment, losing the MVP, the guy that's been the face of the franchise for so long? I know it's more of a salary dump at that point, but it's kind of more of an emotional moment for the fans. You lose the guy you've been rooting for, the best player on your team, the face of the franchise. He signed the contract, he wanted to stay, and you trade him away to the Yankees. I know that's where he wanted to go at the end of the day, and I believe he opted out of his contract at some point. But
would you guys say Derek Jeter as
I thought about it. I thought about it.
Would he be a horror?
What my other honorable mention was I was going to consider for wild card was Jose Urena's first pitch on opening day.
Oh boy.
The Lubachard show plays that like once a month. The audio from that.
That's
they're
sort of
covering
where
it.
we are now,
That
guys.
was, if we're going to talk Jeter's era starting, that kind of said it all about the first 2 years. But let me throw our list back up, and then if we could all for the audio listeners of this, everyone just kind of read through what you picked, and then we'll get this out there to the masses in the next day or so for this to be voted on.
All right, let's take a look.
So, Danny, you let us off. You could. So, what is your board?
Sean, remove the Marlins horror thing so they could see him.
Oh, okay, good.
That's right. It's for audio. Come on.
No, this is audio and video.
Yeah, but what we're doing now is for the audio people.
Oh, oops.
Yeah, I had for trade the return for Christian Yelich, free agent Junichi Tazawa, injury, Josh Johnson's injury history in his career. Wild card number 1, I had rebrand to Miami Marlins 1.0. And then lastly, for my second wild card was drafting Josh Booty.
All right, John.
All right, so for my picks, I had for trade, I had the Miguel Cabrera, Dontrell Willis trade with the Detroit Tigers in 2007. For free agent, I had Sal Talamacchia signing in 2014. For injury, I had the Giancarlo Stanton injury to the face in 2014 as well. Wild card, I had Joe Girardi getting fired in 2006. And for my second wild card pick, I have Henry Ramirez kicks the ball in the late 2000s.
Alrighty. I'm up. My trade was the JT Realmuto trade to Philadelphia. My free agent signing, I believe it was Heath Bell, and signing that horrendous contract. Injury was Starlin Marte being injured in the NL wild card round against the Chicago Cubs in 2020. And my 2 wild cards are letting go of Michael Hill and drafting Tyler Kolek.
All right, and for me, a trade was sending Derek Lee to the Chicago Cubs right after winning the 2003 World Series. Free agent signing, deciding it was a good idea to pay Wei Yin Chen $80 million of Miami Marlins money. For injury, the Jose Fernandez Tommy John surgery injury, just as the 2014 season was getting underway. Wild card number 1, the 1998 fire sale, the original dark moment in Miami Marlins baseball history. And then wild card number 2, hiring Dan Jennings as the replacement manager for Mike Redmond in the 2015 season. All right, so we're going to put
equally scary.
All totally scary. Happy Halloween to all of you. And we will throw this up on Twitter the next day or so for you to vote on. We want you to tell us which of these lists was the most horrific. And the next time we come on, we will reveal the winner. We'll post it on the interwebs as well. For us, I'm Sean, Kevin, John, Danny, and we will catch you next time.